Okay, and this is why I couldn't videotape this on the first take, because these guys right here are doing that. Cut, cut, cut. I've segregated the animals from the people. We can finally get to this. So this is the last video of this question and answer series for the month of January. It is January 31st, so I waited until the last day to get this out. My apologies, guys. It's just been hectic, to say the least, here at 3D Muscle Journey. So let's get it moving, and today's video is going to be on 3D Muscle Journey approved progression schemes. And here's the thing, of course, my progression scheme is not going to fit you. And just another thing is that, for the most part, I think we are now kind of working with our own progression schemes. However, there's a lot of wonderful, good plans out there for you to pick from. And rather than tell you this, this, and that, and forget something else, and then have 100 different messages on whether or not I approve of this plan or not, I'm going to give you guys rough guidelines to use when picking your plan. Because, it doesn't just have to be effective, it has to be something you enjoy. So if I, recommend something like Mad Cow and it's just not your thing, then, why do it? Because you're not going to enjoy it. So let's start off by, of course, breaking it into, different situations here. As a beginner, you want something linear, something where you're progressing multiple times per week. So I remember when I was a beginner, I was all about the flat dumbbell pressers. To this day is one of my best things, one of my best movements. And I can hit a PR on Monday, and then I would totally do it again, on Wednesday, and sometimes Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And that's basically how you want the beginner phase to be. It's just linear. It's just boom, 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 for as long as you can. And it's really crazy just what kind of strides you can make on a simple 5x5 program that encourages linear progression. I mean, I'll get these guys that are like 160 pounds, and they're like these man-boy hybrids, and then by the time it's all said and done, they're done with their beginner phase. Like, I want to hire these dudes to be my bouncers, pretty much. So a lot of good stuff to make, a lot of good progress to be made here. It's short-lived, something again that's linear, something where you're progressing multiple times per week. Again, this is going to be short-lived, so in some cases, some guys outgrow this phase in 3 to 4 months. Some take a little longer, but something like a starting strength type program with some bodybuilder accessory work, because we want things like calves and stuff like that, right? So a beginner phase, very straightforward. Intermediate, this is the one where it gets a little crazier, simply because it's like we discussed in that last video. When you start off as an intermediate, when you're done with these, it's totally different. It's a different situation to when you're in the later part of your intermediate phase. So progression schemes are definitely a must when it comes to your big lifts. The squat, the heavy presses, the deadlift, they all kind of become some sort of Rubik's Cube at this point. So your progression schemes at this point should encourage, in some way, shape, or form, weekly progression, okay? And I think the easiest one to work with when it comes to just what kind of sort of I would recommend for an intermediate is something like a 5-3-1. And the reason I'm going to give you 5-3-1 is because it's such a flexible program, okay? And at some point I even use it because, again, you can kind of pick and choose your spots, which is a great thing to learn when you're an intermediate. So on a 5-3-1, for example, you have your 5s week, and we're just going to do squat, we're going to do bench, we're going to do deadlift. And this is your 5s week, then you have your 3s week, and then you have your 1s week. Okay, so you basically, you're working in these rep ranges, and then you get a bonus set where you can take it to the house. So it's like 5 reps or more if you can. And at first, you're probably going to be able to just have plus sets in every one of these. But what ends up happening is that maybe if you've been an intermediate for a while, and you kind of have to pick your spot. My camera person's pressing all the buttons. She stopped it for a minute. But we're back. We're working, right? Yes. Thank you, homegirl. I love you, baby. And I miss you so much when you were gone. Okay, back to this. So, maybe once you've been an intermediate for a while. So, maybe this mesocycle, which means monthly cycle, you're only going to pick to really choose to really overreach on the squat. So you try to overreach on the squat, and you do your 5s, you really take it to the house in this week. And then, this is just kind of at par. And then maybe with your bench press, you maybe are just aiming to really take it to the house at this week. So again, you kind of get to pick and choose your spots, and you kind of learn to auto-regulate and really learn to, again, overreach when it's there. And even more, one of the coolest things about this program is when I was using it, I would look at the spreadsheet and I would just pick the lifts that I really wanted. So I would go through the squats and then the benches and the deadlifts, and I would just kind of stop and think, okay, so which one of these did I really want? Which PRs I thought were most beneficial for me? And do something like, okay, I like this 3-week bench. You know what? And I'm gonna really do that. So again, you kind of just pick your spots, and again, the longer you're an intermediate, the more, the less frequent you make gains and progress on your big lifts. However, for the most part, I'd say programs that encourage weekly progress, that's where it's at for you. Now, when it comes to an advanced bodybuilder, I would say that at this point, progress for the most part it's done by appointment. So in many cases, especially for those of you out there who are lifting the really big loads, who have been lifting for a very long time, sometimes you have to go through a full mesocycle. You have to go through a full month of wave loading to finally hit PRs towards the end of that wave. In some cases, some of the more elite, strong power builders that I know, sometimes they ramp up PRs in a matter of 6 to 8 weeks. So things definitely slow down. And one thing I would say about the advanced phase, it's probably the one phase where a lot of the rules are kind of sort of broken. A good example of this is my friend Steve Kleba, who, I got a lot of love for you, Steve. Sometimes you out of hand, dude, but I got a lot of love for you. But this dude, he's max squatting for the next month, and that's actually totally appropriate for his situation. So when it comes to the advanced bodybuilder, I would say that this is where a lot of the rules are kind of sort of meant to be broken within reason. When it comes to the intermediate bodybuilder, again, just something that encourages weekly progression. Beginner, again, it's going to be linear, and it's not going to last long, so eventually you will be this dude. And again, to kind of just close this up, so that's kind of how I would arrange that we organize our efforts when it comes to the big movements, right? And then, of course, volume has to be appropriate, depending on the lifter's training age and a bunch of other factors. So that's basically why Lane spends 3 hours at the gym, and that's just the volume that he requires in order to progress. But again, I think 531 is a great program. You don't have to run with that. Starting strength is a great program, but there's a lot of other good beginner programs as well. When it comes to being an advanced bodybuilder, that's when you really have to just have a little extra patience and just know that at this point you've built quite a amount, and anything on top of that looks mighty impressive. That is it, guys. My camera person, I think, needs to use the bathroom. She's starting to dance. Thank you very much, guys.